Hi, Dr. Coleman.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. All right, let's start. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Anderson, president of Brooklyn College, and I am so pleased to be here on what is a third Instagram chat live with, this time, with Dr. Gregory Coleman, who runs the personal counseling program at Brooklyn College. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Coleman.
My pleasure.
Can you tell us, just to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about how your background before we turned to and pivot really on the emotional consequences to the pandemic? I think it would be great for people to hear a little bit about your own background.
Well, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've been working at Brooklyn College for decades, and as director of the personal counseling program, but also as a faculty member in the psychology department.
It is so good to have someone with your level of expertise here to talk with us about the extraordinary consequences, the emotional, psychological consequences of this pandemic on all of our lives. I in particular want to focus on the emotional health of our students on this call, and then maybe at the end of the call we'll talk a little bit about faculty and staff who are also struggling in the same way that students are. So if you could talk to us a little bit about, this is a really challenging time.
Yes, this is really, stressful, and stress and overload are really, the norm for all of us at a time like this. And there's so many sources of stress right now. Change is stressful, and uncertainty is stressful. Threat is stressful, and loss is stressful. So just starting with those things, it's, overwhelming and depleting for all of us to cope with so much.
So one of the words that I hear the most often from our students is feeling overwhelmed. I think that's also a word I hear from staff, a word I hear from faculty. It comes from this idea of too many things in front of us, too many challenges in front of us, high level of change. Do you hear that word overwhelmed a lot?
Yes. And that's the least of it. Overwhelmed would be the starting point. Drowning is the word we hear from a lot of people. So it's, you're doing well if you're just keeping your head above water right now. And for a lot of people, there are some days where it's just too much. Right. And that's a normal response.
So a lot of people are facing personal loss in a time like this. Can you talk a little bit about personal loss and what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think that this pandemic is touching all of us very directly or indirectly. Family members, friends, professional colleagues, students, instructors, that's one level of very important loss when it touches us so directly. But, people also have other kinds of losses. We've all lost kind of the normal structure of our lives, the sort of normal activities that we rely on to kind of keep us organized every day and to keep us on an even keel. So we've taken away, we haven't taken away, but the pandemic has taken away from us all of our normal activities and contacts, the people that we rely on for emotional support and for familiarity. So that sort of loss is not necessarily the first thing that comes to people's minds, but even if you haven't lost one or more people that you know well or that you're close to, you have still experienced the tremendous accumulation of these other losses. And of course, then when you have a more permanent loss, we are those are on top of all of these other losses of being able to go to class, people losing their employment, their job, people losing all or part of their income. It's all about loss, and it puts us into first a shock, and then a normal bereavement and grieving kind of reaction that we have to support ourselves through.
So let me slow you down, because there is grief when someone literally loses a friend or a family member to the COVID pandemic. And that is devastating. And then on top of that, and separate apart from that, the stress of changed online platforms, it's the loss of family members, jobs, maybe your own employment, the loss of a social life, someone mentioned. It's the stress of meeting deadlines, someone says here. So all of those losses are both cumulative and collectively felt, as well as very much individually felt. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about grief and the different kinds of grief, because I think people feel grief surely from the loss of loved ones and lost members of our own community, and then a loss of all kinds of normalcy, as you put it.
Yes, and there's, there are very common patterns in grief, but we all have our individual way of experiencing grief and processing grief. But it's very common for people to feel depressed, to feel anxious, and untethered, for people to feel angry. Whatever kinds of feelings people have in reaction to both the big and somewhat less big losses, all of these feelings and reactions are normal for people. And, it's best to give yourself an opportunity to express these and not to try to suppress them if you are able to be strong enough to let them out so that you can begin to let go a little bit and begin to process the tremendous kind of overload of feelings. It's an accumulation, and I think we all have a reservoir of reactions that we haven't gotten to, reactions that we've set aside so that we can get food, so that we can get our internet connection working, so that we can learn how to participate in things online, so that we can maintain some of our connections. And we've set aside some of our reactions, and those are bound to pop up for us, and those are bound to weigh us down a little bit as we go through. So we have to have realistic expectations for ourselves.
One of the questions I have is that some people are experiencing a tremendous amount of isolation, and some people are experiencing too many people in a small space. And a lot of people are experiencing both of those at the same time. Too many people in their small apartment, family members, loved ones driving them crazy, but also total isolation from colleagues, from their social networks that provide them with stress relief, right? You're talking about stress, and many opportunities for stress relief have been taken away from us. Can you talk a little bit about both isolation and too much togetherness, sort of too many people in a small space?
yes, you know, and I think both things are a problem. One is more of a problem for some people, the other is more of a problem for other people. And for many of us, it's both things going on at once. You know, we have lost our connections in the way that we're used to having them. You know, we aren't seeing our friends in classes. We aren't seeing our colleagues in the hallways. You know, and our relatives who, you know, we may be used to see periodically or even frequently, we're not able to be in the same room. And so all of this is included in the losses that we've been talking about, and it produces, you know, loss and a feeling of isolation. I think it's really important for people to find a way to rebuild some of their social connections, to do what we're doing right now, to use their Instagram or use a video chat or use FaceTime or whatever they feel comfortable with and have available to them, to kind of reconnect and make some time and space for that kind of social support that we all rely on for our stability. So, you know, you don't want to overload yourself with too much of that, but make a point to connect with one or two or maybe even more people each day, outside of the work or school work, outside of the necessary contexts. Make a little time for social support that isn't connected to work and schoolwork and the things that are demanding for us. And when you do this, have in mind being kind and understanding with the people that you're connecting to. And the more you do that, the more you'll get a nurturing kind of response from other people. Now, that's the isolation piece. But then many people at the same time or separately are experiencing being stuck in quarantine in a pretty small shared space. You know, it may be with their family, it may be with their partner, it may be with roommates, you know, but people may not even have a private place to have these kinds of conversations. So for people who are overcrowded and, you know, maybe feel irritable by the impingement of hearing other people and other people overhearing them, and just not being able to get the privacy that we're all used to having, at least a little bit of privacy, a little bit of private space for ourselves. Think about how you can create some of that. You know, you might use a hallway, you might use a bathroom, you might use a kitchen when these spaces are not being used in necessary ways for their function. But even if you can't find a separate physical space, be creative. Use earbuds, use a blindfold or just a scarf to cover your eyes to give yourself a little bit of relief.
You know, a number of students are doing their coursework in closets, because a closet itself is a small space that can become a private space if it has a light, and they're using that to reach out to people, to sometimes log on to classes when they have a need to watch videos for classes. I'm thinking of the ways that people are trying to manage, and the stigma really of the idea of self-care. that we have in this culture. We don't do a lot of, it's sort of poo-pooed by a lot of people. Oh, the notion that you would care for yourself in a way to try to find privacy or take care of yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because self-care can seem pretty remote when we're dealing with a pandemic where people are actually passing away. Someone in the comments mentioned Jay in the philosophy department, an extraordinary person, and how painful it is to deal with people in our own academic community who are passing away or who are in our life passing away. How do you think about self-care in those circumstances?
Yes, when people that we know are dying, or people who are very ill, and people who we're close to, and we have to devote some of our time and energy to pass out from lack of oxygen. And this is similar to that. You will run out of energy to help other people, or at least you won't help them as well as you might if you just take a little bit of time to put on your own oxygen mask first.
So that's a metaphor, putting on your own oxygen mask. What does it mean in a real person's life who's not on an airplane? Can you talk about the kind of, what does it mean metaphorically to put on your own mask first?
Yeah, so we're talking about really basic self-care for people. And so the first thing that people can do is to reestablish as much as they can a regular schedule. When you first make a change, like the change that we've all undergone, everything is kind of ad hoc. You kind of handle things as they're coming at you, and it tends to make things chaotic and unorganized. So now that we're a little bit more used to living in the way that we live now, I think it's very helpful for those of us who haven't had a chance to do so to begin to think about, as much as we can, doing things at regular times, setting aside a time to attend class. Of course, some of that's scheduled for you. A separate time to do classwork, a separate time to do reading, a regular time to eat regularly and healthily 3 times a day, and to make time for getting outside, getting a little moderate exercise. I know people are afraid to go outside sometimes, but I think that people can really benefit from getting a little fresh air and sunshine in a safe way. Just because you go outside, it's not all a contagious environment. Even 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a walk around the block can really make a difference for people. And to schedule a time, put it in your schedule so you don't forget, so it doesn't get overwritten by other kinds of activities. And sleep. Getting to sleep kind of at a regular time, make a bedtime and try to stick to it, plus or minus 1 hour. That's what gives people the most restful sleep.
Sorry, we're slightly asynchronous in terms of the audio and the video. I hope that our tech people can fix that up before we post this online afterward. But in any case, I was thinking, students in particular are struggling with online classes. Some of them are experiencing this as a positive. They do better with online work. Many, however, are really facing so many emotional challenges because of this pandemic, and physical challenges in the space that they are quarantined. That I'm thinking about not having them give up on their goals. I'm thinking about how can they complete this semester. As you know, this semester has a credit, no credit a pass-fail option that students can opt for. As long as you can get through the semester, you can opt for a credit if you get a low but passing grade, and it won't affect your GPA. So students have extra opportunities to try to get through the class that they are taking. One of the things that people are saying on the feed, Dr. Coleman, is to lower your sound perhaps on your device, and that might change the reverb that we're getting on the sound. Are you on a phone or a computer?
Tablet,
Could you
yes.
lower the sound on yours?
Ah.
There we go. Maybe we can do that. While he's doing that, I just want to tell folks that this credit, no credit option is hugely helpful for students. You hear how it's, I think, do you have a speaker? Someone has said it's a speaker volume.
Yes, I've just reduced that.
Okay, let's see if that helps.
Is this better?
I seem to be hearing myself twice. One question, let's just talk about that, and that way I won't have to talk, because I think when I speak, I'm getting the second sound from your speaker. Can students reach out to personal counseling? Can they do something like this? We may have just lost Gregory. Can students do online personal counseling with you and your team, Gregory?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yes, you know, we are working. We are counseling students right now. There is a whole group of counselors who work in personal counseling, and even though I'm here doing this live feed, they are, as we speak, counseling students. And they are doing it in the same way that we're doing this. They are using video conferencing or speaking to students on the phone, or in some instances, even having an exchange of email or other means of communication. So we are here. We are available to talk with students, talk with anyone who's experiencing stress overload, grief, other kinds of reactions. They can email us at bcpersonalcounseling, all one word, at gmail.com, or they can call us between 9 and 5, Monday through Thursday, and until 4:30 on Friday at 718-951-63. Now, if you can't remember all of those contact details, it's easy to remember our website, and that is just PC for personal counseling, the letters PC, and then brooklyn.cuny.edu, the same as the college's web address, and you'll find all of our contact information and a lot of other information on our website.
And it's free for students.
Yes, all of our services are paid for by the state and by students' tuition dollars and by their financial aid. So it's already been paid for. It's free to students, and even just as important, it's confidential. You know, even you, the president of the college, I can't talk about our service to any particular student with you. We don't, we don't talk to your instructors. We don't talk to your parents. We don't talk to your significant others. We don't talk to your friends. Free and confidential. Very important for students to know.
So for students, this is free. It's confidential. Could you repeat the telephone number and repeat the email?
Yes, it's 718-951-5363. And someone is available to take those calls live. We are having our college number forwarded to our administrative support reception people. But if they're already on the phone with another caller, you may get voicemail. Please leave us a voicemail message. We'll get back to you very shortly.
And the voicemail message itself is confidential.
Yes. Even the phone call, even the initial contact is confidential. We don't tell anybody whether you called, what you discussed. Everything is confidential. And the same with the email. The email is also private and confidential. BC Personal Counseling, all one word, at Gmail.
Great. And as we think about other members of our community, can you talk about how staff and faculty might also obtain some services here in the city? Maybe it's not through BC Personal Counseling, but maybe in the larger field of opportunities they might have?
Yes. Well, most staff and faculty, their best option is to work through their health insurance and to go to their insurer's website and look for participating providers. But it might be difficult to make those connections right now. There is an EAP, an employee assistance program called Dear Oaks, and you can find information about that on the college's Human Resources webpage. And they will provide you with some brief counseling, short-term counseling, and they will help you make a connection to a provider through your insurance company. And both staff and students can always use the New York City referral, mental health referral line, health and wellness referral, and that is NYC Well. I believe it's 888 NYC Well.
So
you can call that number.
I really want to thank you, Gregory Coleman, for talking with us today. I know this is going to be a valuable resource. This video is going to be a valuable resource for others. We will post it so that others can take good use, make good use of the wisdom of what you've spoken about here, the importance of self-care in the midst of really traumatizing circumstances for so many, the sense that many people feel overwhelmed, but can manage those really challenging feelings, especially with some free support that the counseling center can provide. I really want to thank you. The last thing I want to mention is that someone said that they wanted to have an in-person graduation ceremony. Someone mentioned that in the messages, and I hear you. I hear the students want to have it in person. We simply can't predict when we might be able to do something like that safely. So we're going to try to celebrate the team, the graduating folks that we can on May 28th, and look forward to that virtual celebration. It's not a replacement for commencement, but it's an opportunity to pause and reflect on the achievements of many students, which is particularly useful during a semester like this, where we are all struggling to remain connected and feel supported and acknowledged. Someone also on the feed mentioned death and bereavement classes. I think we've got tremendous expertise on the faculty here, and I really want to encourage students to take those classes and really avail themselves of the resources and support that you and your colleagues in the Personal Counseling Center can provide. So thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone, thank you so much and take care.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Bye-bye.